There is a photograph of you that you cannot remember. You're in it. Your eyes are open. You are awake, alert, looking straight at whoever is holding the camera. You are clearly alive, clearly there, clearly experiencing the exact moment the shutter clicked. But the person in that photograph is a stranger to you. Somewhere between that day and this one, every trace of being them was quietly wiped from your mind. For the first few years of your life, you were fully conscious. And then someone erased the tape. Reach for your earliest memory. Go as far back as you can. Maybe it's a room, a smell, a birthday cake, a scraped knee, a hand holding yours in the dark. Whatever surfaces, it almost certainly happened after your third birthday, and most likely closer to your fourth. Everything before that is gone. Not blurry, not faded at the edges. Just a smooth, seamless blank. As if those years happened to someone else entirely. Why? Most people reach for the obvious answer. A baby's brain is unfinished. Too new, too soft, too undeveloped to record anything at all. The lights, they assume, simply weren't on yet. But the real answer is far stranger. Because the lights were on. They were blazing. In those first years, you were learning faster than you will ever learn again for the rest of your life. You decoded an entire language out of raw, meaningless noise. You learned that objects still exist when they leave the room. You learned faces, gravity, hunger, danger, love. You climbed the steepest learning curve a human brain will ever climb, and you climbed it without effort. And almost none of it was saved. This blank has a name. More than a century ago, Sigmund Freud called it childhood amnesia. He noticed something strange in the people he studied. Grown adults could describe a single ordinary afternoon from their 20s in rich, specific detail, yet they drew a complete blank across the years when they first learned to walk, to speak, to love. The most important years of a human life had left almost no trace. Freud believed the memories were buried on purpose, locked away somewhere out of reach. He was wrong about the reason, but he was right that something had gone missing. For decades, the assumption held firm. Babies don't remember because babies don't record. Then the experiments arrived, and they told a completely different story. Patricia Bauer, a developmental psychologist at Emory University, spent years proving that babies remember perfectly well. Show a 1-year-old how to build a simple toy, how to press the pieces together in the right order to make it work, then leave and come back weeks later. The child does it again. They learned it. They stored it. They held onto it for weeks. The recording device works flawlessly. But Bauer's research uncovered something quieter and far more unsettling. Young children form vivid, detailed memories, and then they lose them at a staggering rate. The memories don't drift away gently across a lifetime, the way an adult slowly forgets an old phone number. They are dropped in bulk, early, while the child is still a child. So the tape exists. The tape is recording. And then, on a schedule, the tape is wiped clean. What kind of brain would do that? What kind of system spends its most explosive years of growth writing memories only to delete almost every one of them? The deletion even has a timetable. Carol Peterson, a researcher at Memorial University of Newfoundland, studied thousands of children's earliest memories and traced the exact edge of the blank. She mapped what scientists call the offset of childhood amnesia. Around the age of 3.5, memories begin to stick. Before that line, they vanish on a steep, brutal curve. The youngest years emptying out the fastest. It isn't random. It isn't decay. It's a process. Something inside the developing brain is actively, deliberately clearing the floor. And then researchers found the eraser. Deep inside your skull sits the hippocampus, the structure that files raw experience into lasting memory. In an infant, the hippocampus is doing something extraordinary. It is generating brand new neurons at a furious, relentless pace, a process called neurogenesis. Picture a city laying down thousands of new roads every single day. That is wonderful for a brain that has to learn everything at once. But every new road reroutes the traffic. Every new neuron rewires the circuit that already exists. And here is the cruel part. A memory is just a circuit, a specific, fragile pattern of connections between cells. Lay a new road through it, rewire that pattern, and the memory it once held quietly dissolves. Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn, neuroscientists working in Toronto, tested this idea directly. They taught infant mice to fear a particular room, the kind of memory that normally fades fast in the young. Then they slowed neurogenesis down in those infant brains. The memory survived. The babies remembered. Then they ran it in reverse. They forced extra neurogenesis into the brains of adult mice, whose memories are usually rock stable, and they watched those stable memories begin to crumble and disappear. The pattern was impossible to ignore. More new neurons meant more forgetting. The very machine building your mind was erasing its own first drafts as it wrote them. Sit with that for a second. The forgetting is not a malfunction. It is not a weakness or a failure of the infant brain. It is the price of building a brain that fast. Your earliest memories weren't lost because the system broke. They were overwritten because the system was working exactly as it was designed to. But here is where the story turns again. Were those memories actually destroyed? Or were they only hidden? Cristina Alberini and Alessio Travaglia, neuroscientists at New York University, found something that should change how you think about your own past. Working with young rats, they showed that infant memories which appear completely and permanently erased may not be gone at all. With the right reminder, the right specific cue, those seemingly vanished memories could be coaxed back to the surface. The memory had never been destroyed. It had simply been filed somewhere the animal could no longer reach on its own. A door, locked, with no handle on the inside. So the stranger in that photograph may not be lost after all. They may still be in there, sealed behind a wall your conscious mind has no way to climb. Everything you were at 1, at 2, at 3, every fear and every discovery may still exist somewhere in the architecture of your own head. You just have no way back in. But this raises the deepest question of all. Why would a brain be built like this? Why hand a child the single most important years of their life and then take all the memories away? Part of the answer is the strangest part of the whole story. To remember a moment as yours, you first need a you for it to belong to. Catherine Nelson, a developmental psychologist, argued that autobiographical memory depends on two things arriving together: language and a stable sense of self. You cannot file an event as something that happened to me until there is a settled me for it to happen to. And that me arrives slowly, carried in on language, built out of the first stories you are told and then start to tell about yourself. Before that self exists, there is only experience without an owner, pure sensation with no name written on the envelope, and a memory with no address gets returned to sender. That is why the blank lifts at almost exactly the moment language and selfhood arrive. The moment you could finally say the word I, you could finally keep what happened to that I. Your memory didn't switch on at age 3. Yourself did. And memory simply followed it into existence, like a shadow that only appears once there is something standing in the light. There's a final twist hiding here too, and it might unsettle you most of all. Some of what you do think you remember from early childhood may never have happened to you at all. A surprising number of people's so-called earliest memories turn out to be reconstructions, scenes quietly assembled later from a faded photograph, a story told at the dinner table, a moment described so many times that the mind builds an image and then mistakes that image for a true recording. You weren't there for the memory, you were there for the retelling, and your brain, ever the storyteller, filled in the rest. So what does all of this actually mean for you right now, today? It means you are not as different from that infant as you feel. The erasing never truly stopped. It only slowed down. Your brain is still deciding every single day what to keep and what to quietly let go. You have already forgotten almost every meal you have ever eaten, almost every commute, almost every ordinary Tuesday of your entire adult life. You hold on to the moments that fit the story of who you think you are, and you let everything else dissolve, exactly as you did at 18 months old. Only gentler now, only slower. You are not a recording. You never were. You are an edit, a highlight reel stitched together from the few frames that survived the cut, narrated by a self that only learned to speak halfway through. The blank at the beginning of your life is not a gap in the film. It is the first and largest edit your brain ever made. and it has been making that same quiet choice in miniature every single day since. And the stranger in the photograph? That stranger is not lost. That stranger learned the face that is now yours. That stranger learned the language now running through your head as you read these very words. That stranger learned for the first time that the world was safe enough to open your eyes and look at it. You do not remember being them, but you are made entirely and completely of what they learned.